Hello everyone, let's discuss today's The Hindu editorial page. The first article is Post Office Act, its unbridled powers of interception. In this article, the writer says that on December 24, 2023, the President of India gave assent to the Post Office Bill 2023, which will replace the colonial-era Indian Post Office Act 1898. The opposition expressed concerns about the provision on unchecked powers of interception by post office authorities, including the conditions of such interception, which is not defined under the Act. There are also no procedural safeguards in the Act to check arbitrary use by the authorities or any liability in case the power of interception is misused. On December 24th, the Telecommunications Bill 2023 also received the President's assent, which will replace two central acts, the Indian Telegraph Act 1885 and the Indian Wireless Telegraphy Act 1933. The Telecommunication Act has a provision, Section 22, on interception of messages, similar to Section 5(2) of the Telegraph Act of 1885, except that the contents of Section 7(2)(b) of the Act of 1885 empower the central government to notify rules on the precautions to be taken for preventing the improper interception or disclosure of messages. However, unless such procedure and safeguards are prescribed, Section 22 cannot be brought into operation. The Information and Technology IT Act 2000 also provides for interception of any information through any computer source, though the necessary requirement does not call for the occurrence of any public emergency or any demand in the interest of public safety. Thus, the scope of interception under the IT Act is wider. The interception of phones under the Telegraph Act continued without any procedural safeguards in place until the Supreme Court of India, in People's Union for Civil Liberties (PUCL) versus Union of India, 1996, laid down the procedure and safeguards to check arbitrariness and a misuse of powers by authorities. The court also elaborated upon parameters to comprehend the occurrence of public emergency and public safety, clarifying that unless one of these two conditions is met, interception cannot be resorted to, no matter how necessary or expedient it might be in the interests of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, or for preventing incitement to the commission of an offense. The Post Office Act, which is likely to be replicated under the new telecommunication rules, lacks procedural safeguards to dispel fears of misuse of the substantive provision on interception. The post office mostly transports confidential items such as letters and postcards, which are essentially of a confidential nature. The Supreme Court in Dis Registrar and Collector, Hyderabad and ANR versus Canara Bank, 2005, held that the right to privacy is not lost if some personal items are entrusted to the post office for correspondence. The right to privacy also imposes a requirement of a written recording of reasons before a search and seizure could be carried out. In Justice K.S. Puttaswamy, Ret. and ANR versus Union of India and Ors, 2017, the right to communication has been held to be a part of the right to privacy and thus protected under Article 21 of the Constitution. Article 17 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, 1966, to which India is a party, states that no one shall be subjected to arbitrary or unlawful interference. The next article is a revival of the IMEC idea amid choppy geopolitics. In this article, the writer says that the Yemen conflict has raised concerns in the shipping industry about the Suez Canal, which continues to be the backbone of East-West trade. The conflict has also fueled the case for the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC, which the Gaza war seems to have dealt a major blow. Critics of IMEC argue that the Arab Street would not allow any major trade link between Saudi Arabia and Israel many years after the war ends. A US government press release on September 9th promised that stakeholders would meet within 60 days to finalize the details of the IMC. But the war has ensured that such a meeting could not occur. The core of IMC is connecting Al Haditha in Saudi Arabia to Haifa in Israel, but it will be challenging. Rail projects such as Etihad Rail and the Gulf Railway, Gulf Road, are already underway in the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia independently, which would target ports such as Fujairah and Jebel Ali. Geopolitics will likely look different after the Gaza war, with Turkey being the biggest challenge. However, Harsh Pant, Vice President for Studies at the Observer Research Foundation, hopes that Turkey will eventually be brought into the project and that the long-term trend towards greater trade and strategic links between Israel and Arab nations will hold. IMEC is proposed to carry hydrogen pipelines, which would keep Gulf nations in business in the hydrogen economy. For India, containerization through rail and road in IMC is a big draw, as it radically accelerates trade and reduces port costs. India's National Logistics Policy, unveiled in 2022, seeks to lower logistics costs to global levels by 2030. Beefing up containerization would be a key pathway towards achieving this goal. In conclusion, the Yemen conflict has raised concerns about the IMC, hydrogen pipelines, and the potential for a shift in West Asia geopolitics. However, the potential for increased trade, reduced costs, and a more sustainable transportation system are promising for the future of the region. The next article is a backsliding curbs on financing of civil society bodies denote eroding civil liberties. In this article, the writer says that the Center for Policy Research, CPR, has been suspended from its FCRA license for over a year, arguing that its publications are equated with current affairs programming, which is prohibited for entities using FCRA funds. This move sends the message that India is no longer open to the free flow of knowledge and ideas. The FCRA has been used to target civil society for political or ideological reasons, and the government has been working hard to prove the International Commission of Jurists right. The latest round of amendments was passed in 2020, and the International Commission of Jurists denounced it as incompatible with international law, and warned that it would impose extraordinary obstacles on the capacity of civil society actors to carry out their important work. World Vision India, which works with children, has had its FCRA cancelled before dust could settle on the cancellation of CPR. India seeks recognition as a Vishwaguru and is hypersensitive to rankings on international indices, but unwilling to acknowledge the link between perception and reality. The US-based nonprofit Tooth Freedom House downgraded India to an electoral autocracy, citing erosion of civil liberties as a reason. Shutting off the finances of civil society organizations on fragile grounds is a textbook example of civil liberties erosion, guaranteed to amplify the narrative of democratic backsliding. It would be pointless to complain about bias or invoke controversies to tarnish India's image when these actions are reflected in India's downgrading in global indices of freedom and democracy. The next article is Asia Ascendant Japan's partly successful moon landing sees space race with Asia in lead. In this article, the writer says that on January 19th, the smart lander for investigating Moon SLIM spacecraft of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, was expected to soft land on the Moon. However, reports from JXA indicated that the lander had touched down, but its solar panels were not producing power, forcing the craft to bank on its batteries. SLIM appeared to be transmitting data, and checks of its other components did not indicate any damage, making Japan the fifth country to soft land a robotic spacecraft on the Moon. SLIM was designed to land within a 100 SQM area, hence its nickname Moon Sniper. Its partial success comes a day after a moon landing mission built by Astrobotic, a private US company, and funded by NASA. SLIM happened roughly a month ahead of a landing attempt by another American company and 4 ahead of China's ambitious sample return mission from the Moon's far side. JAXA's lessons from SLIM are expected to inform the planned Lunar Polar Exploration mission, an India-Japan collaboration with India expected to provide the lander. Precision landing is valuable because it allows lunar missions to begin closer to a place of interest, where there may be a smaller patch suitable for landing.